We're going to go ahead and convene open session. It is 1911 hours. This is our February 5th regular meeting of the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. Please be advised these board meetings are televised. They're on Channel 28 Wednesday evenings and Saturdays in the morning, so your image may be captured on the cameras that are throughout the room. We're going to start this evening with our Pledge of Allegiance, as we customarily do. So I'd like to invite up Brian Sharman. He's the Vice Principal at Christensen. He's going to introduce his student leaders that are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And after you guys are done, if you could have the kids come around so we can shake their hands and recognize them.
My name is Brian Sharman, and I am the proud Vice Principal of Christensen Middle School, and it gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce the following CMS leadership students to lead us in our pledge. Alicia Bagati, Jasmine Jara, Lucy Patrick, Savannah Dulasong, Saif Sumreen, and Navon Long.
We'll start on your cue whenever you...
We're working on it. Okay. So just say ready, begin.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you. If you look at any of the visuals throughout the room, that just kind of has a copy of our agenda. Some of you may have grabbed a hard copy on your way in off the table. So I'll try to just kind of give you the number. It's in the left corner. It's in outline form. Right now we're going to just report on our closed session activity that we just came from. All actions that are approved in closed session must be reported out here in open session. We took no action in the closed session this evening, so there's nothing to read out. Just some basic housekeeping on the meeting procedures. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, where our primary focus is on the education of the students within this district. During this meeting, members of the public, you, will have the opportunity to share information, voice any concerns, and share ideas regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. During our discussion on each agenda item, there'll be a time for you to comment and speak to that item. If the item you would like to speak is not on the agenda, we ask that you fill out a tan speaker card and hand it to one of the ladies that are up in the front corner here, and it'll work its way around. We'll call you up to speak on that topic during communication from the public. If you wish to address an item that is on our agenda, please fill out one of the blue cards. Same process, and it'll work its way up here. When you do come up, we ask that you speak for no more than 3 minutes. This evening, and Deputy Superintendent Van Schack's seat is our HR Director, Melissa Theedy, and there'll be a 3-minute clock activated to her front. And so when you get to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, if it looks like you're not wrapping up, I'm not being rude, I'm just looking to keep the meeting going well and be polite to everyone. And I might remind you that you've got about 30 seconds. Again, these meetings are televised. They're on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. So when you come up, if any of you do come up to speak, I'm doing a presentation or otherwise, there's a little microphone there, and there's a button, and it has to be, the green light has to be on. You just tap it, and then we can capture your audio so it presents well. With that, we're going to move to Section 4, and this is any changes to the agenda. And with that, I'd ask our Superintendent, Dr. Kelly Bowers, if there's any changes.
Thank you, Mr. President. We actually have one addition to our agenda this evening. We received one piece of board correspondence after the agenda was published, but prior to the 4 p.m. deadline the day before the meeting per policy. So that's been included in the clerk's board correspondence summary, and a copy is at your desktop.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move into Section 5. These are our recognitions, so we all look forward to these. So I'm going to ask Dr. Bowers if you'd introduce our first.
Certainly, it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Kevin Greer forward. He is our Director of Curriculum, and he will be taking the time tonight to honor our mathletes, our star mathletes. These are students in middle school who have showed very well in our math counts competition.
All right, good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. It gives me great pleasure this evening to celebrate Math Counts, our district's annual math competition, by recognizing the winning students, the community volunteers and staff members whose dedication to mathematics has made our annual competition a tremendous success, and our own Livermore Valley Education Foundation. Representatives here tonight, I know, are LVEF President Dana Rowley and Treasurer Greg Park, and we would be remiss if we didn't also mention Dr. Bill Dunlop as well. And so if they're here, I just wanted to have them raise their hand or stand up. So I think two of them, there they are. I do want to recognize them, Livermore Valley Education Foundation is one of our community partners because they did help to fund the entire event. Did I have proof? I have their check. It's right here. They gave it to me this morning. So. All right, so at this time, I would like to invite the students, the math coaches, the LVEF representatives, and staff members who are here this evening to join me at the front. So just kind of stand here behind me. So if you're one of those students that competed, if you're a coach, go ahead and stand towards the back so we don't cover over our wonderful mathletes. Give them a second to come on up.
And while the kids are assembling behind Dr. Greer, if any of the parents would like to take a picture, instead of taking the picture of the back of all these fine kids, feel welcome to come up behind us, and you can get a lot better picture.
Okay, so we'll let everyone kind of grab up here. I seem to remember several of these faces from that day.
So, and generally,
Come right
those
this way
students who
over
are
here.
less tall, we put
come right
toward the
around
Go ahead
front,
and go around.
and then we put the students who are a little taller in the next row. And then we'll have our coaches either on the side or in the back.
All right.
It's a much better picture.
All right. All righty. So, if you visit our math schools on various days before or after school, you will see students huddled together in collaboration, asking probing questions and communicating solutions. Students are expanding their creativity as they intently work on problems. Students are laughing and making new friends. This is Math Counts. We are proud that our district offers many opportunities for students to engage in STEM learning. Math Counts is one of these opportunities that invites our middle school students to engage in 21st century learning by applying their grade level California mathematics standards to real world problems. We are able to offer this program to our students through the resources of the National Math Counts Club and Competition Series. Each of our middle schools runs its own before or after school Math Counts Club with the coordination and support of community members and parent volunteers, as well as from math teachers. All of the weekly mathematics practice prepares the students for what is probably the most exciting component of Math Counts, the citywide competition. On Saturday, January 12th, in the Granada High School Student Union, 142 students representing 7 schools from throughout the city of Livermore came together to compete at the 23rd annual Math Counts competition. Imagine a morning of collaborative problem solving as well as independent concentration, of challenging problems and exciting competitive rounds, of focused intensity, of excitement, of fun. That was the Math Counts competition. I have to tell you that being there and emceeing the final speed and lightning round that was going on, I think we were all there was this sudden tenseness and intensity going on just at the end when, just like it should be, number 1 was battling number 2, and they had to get certain questions right, and you could hear a pin drop in there, and when it happened and the person won the thing, it was probably more exciting than the Super Bowl that just happened. I will just mention that.
Definitely.
Definitely more exciting than the Super Bowl, and the score was definitely more than what it was. So, it was definitely, I mean, there were highlights all the way across the thing. Our number 9 person sliding all the way down and knocking off number 8, number 7, number 6, number 4, and it was like, wow, is he going to go all the way? And then there was drama, there was intensity, it was all good. You could get your math geek on. All right, so 26 of the 142 students emerged as winners. These students placed as either an individual winner or as a winning team member. When I call his or her name, each of them who is here tonight will step forward so that they can, and you can, see who they all are. All right, so here we go. For 7th and 8th grade, we had 10 top 10 individual finishers. So going in the particular order from 10th up to first place, we had in 10th place, Maddie Strauss from Valley Montessori. We had Farin Soriano from Christensen. We had David Shower Wu from Valley Montessori in 8th place. 7th, we had Arush Panda from East Avenue. There. In 6th place, we had Mendenhall's Nathan Blanton. In 5th place, we had Mendenhall's Shunsuke Sakagami. I think that is it. In 4th place, we had Joaf Feigenbaum from Mendenhall. 3rd place, we had East Avenue's Ian Zolinas. 2nd place, we had East Avenue's Michael Zhang. And our champion this year of the 7th and 8th graders was Liam Manley from Mendenhall. Top teams that we had in the 7th and 8th grade. So we were able to kind of come up with 3. We had to come up with 3 teams of 4 that had placed in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place. The first place team was a team out of Mendenhall that consisted of Liam Manley, Joaf Feigenbaum, Shunsuke Sakeami, and Prisha Seth. And then 2nd place was a team out of East Avenue that had Michael Zhang, Henry Gleason, Richard Mallon, and Ian Zolinas on there. And then our 3rd place team was a Mendenhall team that had Jeffrey Hong, Owen Fiddler, Nathan Blayton, and Irina Kenfak. So raise your hands if you're here for those. And then 6th place, these guys were amazing because they'll have 2 more years of this to go. So some of our 7th, 8th guys are ready to phase out. They're 8th graders and they're moving on. But our 6th graders had a chance to see the speed round in action. They don't get to participate in the speed round as a 6th grader. That's something they look forward to for 7th and 8th grade. And so hopefully some of these people that did finish in 6th place in the 6th grade competition, we had top 5 individuals. We'll see them as one of our top finalists next year. So 5th place of our 6th grade individuals, Mendenhall's Alex Piscati. 4th place with Mendenhall's Arav Mehta. 3rd place was Mendenhall's Harong Zhang. 2nd place was from Christensen, and that was Haston Chin. And in 1st place, we had Mendenhall's Audrey Manley. And yes, they've kept that one in the family, by the way, if you didn't catch that. That was probably the first time siblings have taken the 2 top spots in the individual teams in the 6th grade and then 7th and 8th grade teams. So that was kind of exciting. All right. But math is not genetic. It is. Okay. Our top 3 teams for 6th grade, we had our 1st place team out of Mendenhall, which was Audrey Manley, Araf Mehta, Jason Wild, and Zayed Mohammed. And then 2nd place, we had Mendenhall's team of Harong Zhang, Alex Piscati, Amelia Muller, and Anshika Shah. And then we had 3rd place, Christensen's Haston Chin. I know he's like, yay. I can hear a little yay in the background. Ariman Gandhi, Caleb Park, and we had Darshini Bin Duraj as our 3rd place team from Christensen. So again, congratulations to our outstanding mathematicians. And then what I wanted to do was also recognize those people that got them there. So we had the coaches that stood behind them and were putting in countless hours. So from Christensen and also representing LVEF was Dr. Bill Dunlop. From East Avenue, we had Jim and Luis Morris. And from Junction, Jessica Stewart. Mendenhall had Ted Perry, Kathy Perry, and Mai Cole. And Mitchell was Megan Hu and her husband. So if they're here, if you can raise your hand, any of you guys who are outstanding math coaches. And finally, the person who kind of hopes to put it all together, but is one of those that shies away from the limelight, but does so much to get this event off the ground. We want to thank our Math Counts coordinator and our district math coach, Robin Schlichter. She had invested probably 80 hours. I would suspect it went into triple digits. It was probably over that in making the event a success that was great for all. I think families, they all hung in there. It was wonderful. So we want to give a big hand to Robin Schlichter. So I think at this time, what I'm going to have them do is, I don't know if you want them to circle through. Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't you guys go ahead? Kids, why don't you go first and go down the line there and go shake hands.
Let's give them one more big round of applause.
One
as they
huge
come
round
around.
of applause for our mathletes. And then our mathletes, what we'll have you do is have you go outside after you've done the thing, and there's a staging area for a photo, and we'll give you your certificates of recognition as well.
Works hard at pronouncing, but it's hard. Good job. Congratulations. It was so exciting.
Keep going on that math. I like
Glad
that.
you worked. Thank you.
Good job. Congratulations. Keep going on that math. Congratulations.
Again.
Did great. Keep it up. Keep it up. Good work. Thank you. It'll get better. Nice job. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Welcome again.
Good job, guys. Congratulations. Nice job. Congratulations. Good job. Good job.
Congratulations.
Great job. Good job. Keep going on that math.
Kids come this way. We're going to create you for a photo.
On your feet, Chuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good work.
Thank you. You got all wrapped up in it. Yeah.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was going to say, you have Allison J. They love it.
That's good work. All righty. If you could introduce our next. I wonder what our ratings are on that. We should televise that, huh?
We'll see. I bet they go up. So now I would like to ask Mr. Brian Sharman to come forward once again. Oh, actually, Mrs. Avila is here with us now. Ms. Pat Avila will come forward. Maybe Mr. Sharman will join us. Oh, you're splitting it. Okay.
Yeah.
As a true
Split it
team, we'll do divide and conquer. She will be introducing and doing the honor of introducing very hardworking and dedicated staff members from Christensen Middle School and keeping the math theme going as well.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. I'm Pat Avila, principal of Christensen Middle School, and it's with great pleasure that I'd like to introduce the math department at Christensen Middle School. And if I could have those 5 ladies please come up and stand behind me. They are Shayna Danielson, Melissa Giorgio, Amanda Ramirez, Cynthia Woodworth, and Heather Zitzka. They're all very excited to be here tonight. These 5 teachers have collaborated, discussed, co-taught, planned together, created common assessments, created a common grading system for all students at CMS. They have spent time together, and the benefit has been for our students. The delivery of concepts and math procedures are clearer and more relevant for our students. These teachers truly support the concept of their instruction of math that failure is not an option by instituting standard-based grading. Beginning last summer, the math staff met to reevaluate their grading practices, and at the beginning of the school year, the math team informed students and parents about standard-based grading. The students are able to reassess their quizzes and tests to raise their grade and increase their learning. These math teachers reteach, they have peer teaching, and they truly care about the students when it comes to math. We're very proud of them, and one little known fact, 4 of our 5 teachers are homegrown. 4 of them went to Livermore High School. So we're very proud of our community and that we create our homegrown here. So this is the math department from Christensen Middle School.
Yeah. Thank you.
Math does count.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all working with those kids. Hey,
Thank you. Good work.
thank you for all the work you're putting in these kids.
You didn't go through the whole quiz? Who's not from Livermore?
Just come up.
And last but certainly not least, we'll invite Mrs. Philomena Rambo forward. She's our Director of Community Engagement. And she will be honoring and recognizing a very generous community partner, the Livermore Valley Wine Growers Foundation.
Thank you, Dr. Bowers. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, cabinet, and our audience. As the Director of Community Engagement, I do have the pleasure this evening of leading our celebration of one of our partners, the Livermore Valley Wine Growers Foundation. And with us this evening, representing this group, I would like to invite up Christine Wente. Come up. Christine is one of the several board members of this foundation, and I'd like to give you their names so that you're also aware, and when you see them in the community, you can thank them. You can stand over here. Brandy Addington, who is the auction chair, is very important. Also Chris Chandler, Diane Craner, Larry Dino, Jennifer Fazio, Lisa Kalfas, Kathy Liskey, Matt Ruska, and Salome Taylor. You may recognize those names if you visit some of our wineries here in town. The foundation, in partnership with the Wente Foundation for Arts Education, is responsible for hosting the annual Livermore Valley Wine Auction. Over the years, this auction has generated and donated to children in our local area over $5 million. So, yes. And I might add that Christine Wente is the ideal representative this evening, as she is involved in both organizations in a leadership role. So we're very privileged to have her here this evening. Over the years, our district has benefited tremendously from the generous donations of the Livermore Valley Wine Growers Association, and they've also benefited our partners. The auction has supported, among others, the Open Heart Kitchen, the Valley Healthcare Foundation, the Bankhead Theater, the Livermore Shakespeare Festival, Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center, and our very own Livermore Valley Education Foundation. Last year, the auction donated to all Tri-Valley schools so that we could increase our supply of musical instruments. And this year, at an event held earlier in January, the auction presented checks in the amount of $35,000 to each of the 3 school districts, Livermore, Pleasanton, and Dublin, to be used for STEAM educational programming. So we were incredibly grateful for that, and Dr. Bowers was there to receive that check. And I'd also like tonight to acknowledge that truly, at pretty much every school fundraiser, the wineries are present, whether they are there literally, whether we're at their venue, whether they've given us a reduced rate for their venue, whether they've donated products for our raffles. They are members of our community. They're parents of kids in our schools, and they really weave together the fabric that makes Livermore such an amazing community. So we're very grateful to have them as partners, and we're grateful for their generosity. So please join me in thanking the Livermore Valley Wine Growers Foundation and in thanking Christine Wente for her leadership. Okay.
Please.
I guess we should really toast her.
Yeah, we should toast you.
You have to drink
For a
after
former
you
board member.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. That's okay.
That's important.
Thanks.
Do that.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move into our student board member reports. There's an opportunity at each of our comprehensive high schools. We have a representative that comes in. They sit with us on our board, and they give us an update of kind of what's going on at the high schools, gives the public a chance to get a little bit of insight into some of the things that are going on at Livermore and Granada High. We'll start tonight with the Granada High representative, Avery Peralt.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. Granada has been full speed ahead since the last meeting. We have had 2 homerooms back-to-back each Thursday. The first one, freshmen and sophomores took the Challenge Success Survey, while some seniors attended the Las Positas Assembly and other ones got a longer lunch. And then the next week, juniors and seniors took the survey, while underclassmen had the opportunity to confer with upperclassmen teachers and ask any questions they had. Today, we also had another assembly-type thing with a speaker who talked about kindness and how to treat everyone with respect. ASB had some extra money in their budget, so they thought that that would be a good way to spend it, and I think a lot of people were really inspired by it. This week is also a Spirit Week, and this upcoming Friday, we have our winter sports rally, so this week is very full. To finish off the winter sports season, Girls soccer is in NCS, and then most other sports are winding down. We do have our six-man game against Livermore this Saturday, so everyone's really excited for that. New sports have also been having tryouts, and teams will be confirmed soon. Also next week, the Red Cross Club will host a blood drive, and many students are signed up. This past Saturday, the sophomores also hosted winter ball in the Granada gym, and it was a blast. It definitely pumped up the students for junior prom and senior ball and the end of the year. Seniors are also prepping scholarship applications. Pedrosi's open now, turning in applications for Seal of Biliteracy, and ramping up for the busy end of the second trimester. So overall, Granada has been busy as ever. Everyone's looking forward to the upcoming trimester, finishing up midterms, and getting ready for the fun second half of the year. Thank you, and as always, go Mats.
Thank you very much. Now with Livermore High School, we'll go Olivia La Barbera.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. I'm pleased to report that LHS has had a busy past 2 weeks, and we also have an exciting next 2 weeks coming up. LHS is having Spirit Week this week in order to prepare for our annual Operation Needle Drop this Friday. Monday was Jersey Day, today was Twin Day, tomorrow is Disney Day, Thursday is Class Colors, and Friday is Green and Gold Day. We are all really excited to see this year's Operation Needle Drop. This week is also full of senior nights. Tonight, our boys soccer team is having their senior night. On Thursday, girls soccer has their senior night, as well as the Shooting Stars dance team and both girls and boys basketball. This Saturday, there is a six-man basketball game against Granada, and we are all very excited for that. Afterward, the class of 2022 is hosting a Valentine's Day dance open to all LHS students. It's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of Valentine's Day, leadership is not only doing Valentine's grams that students or staff can purchase and have delivered to anyone on campus, we are also having tables full of arts and crafts on Valentine's Day. We're all very super excited. Thank you, and today is a great day to be a cowboy.
Thank you very much. We're going to move section 7, and this is the time for our employee associations to come up. Their representatives, their elected representatives, have the opportunity to come in and tell us a little bit about what's going on within the organization and how on their interaction with the district. So coming up is LEA's representative. This is Kate Sorrell, the president. Good evening.
Good evening, President Bueno, members of the school board, Superintendent Bowers, members of the cabinet, members of the audience here and at home. My name's Kate Sorrell, and I'm the president of the Livermore Education Association. Gung hei fa choi. Today ushers in the year of the pig. The pig is the last sign in the Chinese zodiac and is perceived as an especially auspicious year, signifying wealth and good fortune. Lunar New Year is greeted with fireworks and lucky money in red envelopes. It is the last day of a holiday marathon that includes house cleaning, paying off your debts, and spending time with family. February is Black History Month, and I'm a history teacher at heart. We are familiar with Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King Jr. But have you heard of Dr. Lonnie Johnson, NASA scientist and the inventor of the Super Soaker and the Nerf gun? Have you heard of Dr. Katherine Johnson, a physicist, mathematician, whose work was an integral part of our space program that launched John Glenn into space? Do you know that Ella Baker was the founder of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that integrated interstate bus routes and fought for voting rights? Do you know that James Baldwin's work represents every individual whose access to civil rights is restricted by race, gender, sexual identity, and socioeconomic status? For the counselors, nurses, psychologists, speech pathologists, classroom teachers, and teachers on special assignment, today marks the 100th day of school. It is a landmark on which we measure our progress and calculate what modifications may need to be made for our long-term plans while making sure we stay focused on the many school and district events that take place over the next few weeks. Students are being prepped for the district spelling bee, which there's an event tomorrow and then another one next week. And the extravaganza that is Science Odyssey is under construction. Annual and triannual individualized education plans are prepared and delivered to parents with input from all of the educators that provide services to students. I am mindful of the many tasks, large and small, that the members of the Livermore Education Association complete in order to support the academic and social emotional needs of all of our students, and that we could not do that without the support of our district, our parents, and our community. In that spirit, I would like to wish the board, Dr. Bowers, the cabinet, the members of the audience here and at home, a very happy Lunar New Year filled with peace, prosperity, and good fortune. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to recognize the other representatives, in CSEA is Mamie Kristovich, and SEIU is Teresa Jennings, and the confidentials is Cindy Hotzenbiller. And I believe Mamie gave me a call a little bit earlier, and she's actually out celebrating the Chinese New Year, so she gets a pass tonight. Going to Section 8, communication from the public. Communication from the public is the time for the public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on our agenda. We, the board, may listen to the comment. We may ask staff clarifying questions, but we can either discuss or take action at meetings that are not on the agenda, and this is in accordance with the Brown Act. If you'd like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now would be the time to do so. I don't have any tan cards up here, so I'm not going to go through all the formalities about the 3-minute limit or anything. Oh, okay. Oh, then, yeah, please just come up and hand in the card, and we'll be good.
I didn't write a card.
Okay, then you can just, you can.
I just want to make a comment.
Oh, come and sit down. Have a seat.
I just want to make a comment about our Granada liaison. She announced that we had a assembly today and had a guest speaker. And I wanted to, my name is Robin Taggart. I'm an English teacher at Granada High School.
Hi.
And the guest speaker was Leon Logothesis from The Kindness Diaries on Netflix. And I'm really proud of our leadership group because of Choose Love. And this is where I wanted to say to you, because of Choose Love that you have implemented into our district. Leon came in and talked to the whole entire student body, and it was an amazing thing. I talked to a lot of students after to ask, you know, like, what did you feel? How did you feel about it? And they said it's a lot like Choose Love. So I just want to say thank you for implementing the program for us, and it's working. So thank you very much to everyone.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so we're going to go into Section 8, and that's why we have public comment. Section 8B, this is correspondence. Formal written correspondence to this Board of Education shall be acknowledged if it's received by the board or in the superintendent's office by 1600 hours the day before the meeting. Formal written correspondence received after the cutoff time will be acknowledged at our following meeting. Electronic communication received via the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District website by accessing the formal written correspondence to the Board of Education link with all fields completed and verified shall be considered written correspondence. So with all that being said, I'd ask the clerk if there is any correspondence, and if so, if you'd summarize it for us, please.
Yes, Mr. President, we have 3. California Department of Education, Fred Yeager, School Facilities and Transportation Services Division. The board received 3 separate final modernization plan approvals for Granada High School, Junction K-8 School, and Livermore High School. These approvals are key as they position us for the state bond facilities and matching funds. A second one, Mary Malee, formal board correspondence received via email. Miss Malee wrote to the board to remind them the Night to Shine Tri-Valley 2019 event is being held on Friday, February 8th. This event is a prom for young people with special needs, and Ms. Malee provided a link to sign up to attend. Correspondence received after the board agenda was published, but prior to 4 p.m. on the day before the meeting. The office, Alameda County Office of Education, formal board correspondence received via U.S. mail on February 4th. ACOU ACOE has reviewed and analyzed the first interim report approved at the December 11th, 2018 board meeting and concurs with the district's positive for certification. The ACOE advised that while our district's multi-year projections indicate that we'll be able to maintain at least a 3% reserve for economic uncertainties in the general fund through 2020-21, expenditure reductions may be necessary to do so. ACOE encourages our district to implement budget balancing solutions in future fiscal years to ensure long-term fiscal health. Since that report had been approved, we've got some information from Susan Kinder. The county concurs with the positive certification of Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District's first interim report. The first interim was based on actuals as of October 31st and projections based on the state's June budget. As recommended, the district has already implemented budget balancing solutions. We look forward to the second interim report that will be presented to the board in March and will incorporate the impact of the new governor's January budget proposal. And with that's the end of all our correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Moving into our discussion items, I might ask our superintendent, Dr. Bowers, if you'd introduce our first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Kevin Greer is coming forward once again, and he will be presenting to you the 2018-2019 STEM, or Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics report. And I believe that we might have also Ms. Regina Brinker as part of the presentation.
I do. She's here for any questions or anything you might have as well for her as well. She is Regina Brinker. She's one of our teachers on special assignment that specializes with NGSS on our science teachers and science specialists. So, all right. So, good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and members of Cabinet. I'm here to give you a report on the integration of science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, for all of our students as they progress from TK to grade 12. I wanted to use tonight to also showcase our district's 10-year commitment and investment to STEM. So it's been 10 years since we started kind of putting some resources behind getting our STEM program off the ground. So that's kind of a long time. Give that a clicker. Oh. Okay. So at the end of every school year, seniors are surveyed, and one of the questions pertains to what they intend to pursue as a career field. As you can see, the top three career pursuits are all STEM-related fields: science, engineering, and computers. One of our interesting facts, by the way, to start off the night with, our first Project Lead the Way Gateway class, which is a STEM-related class, their first set of graduates at East and CMS are now entering college, and many are enrolled in engineering and STEM majors. We probably would attribute a lot of that to the fact that the investment was made here to kind of get them interested and intrigued in those top 5 career areas. Now in our 10th year, we have established a robust K-12 pathway for Project Lead the Way. LVJUSD is seen as a leader in bringing rigorous STEM education to students. Project Lead the Way classes are incorporated into elementary science labs taught by our science specialist, and this is in addition to the NGSS lessons that they give all of our students, and then they also find a way to incorporate more of the Project Lead the Way classes and elements into that. East Avenue, by the way, was invited to participate in the first annual Girls Lead the Way in STEM Summit, sponsored by Chevron. East Avenue boasts over 30% of their students in Project Lead the Way are females. So it was a very high number, and they were kind of highlighted at a recent Project Lead the Way event that I know Regina was attending, and a presenter as well as a participant. So I don't know if you wanted to kind of give a highlight on that or no. You could. Yeah.
Thank you. This past weekend, Project Lead the Way had one of its 4 national summit meetings in Anaheim, and I'm proud to say that I was invited to participate in 2 panel discussions about work that goes on at the Livermore School District, and one of those was showcasing the Chevron STEM Girls in STEM event, and Livermore was East Avenue was the only school in Alameda County that was invited to participate in this. The other schools were in Contra Costa County, and I think that really speaks highly in recognition of our dedication to STEM education for students.
Excellent, thank you. All right, a key component of any STEM program is the engineering design process that takes place. And this process consists of 3 major steps, and they're up there. One is identifying the problem. The other is trying to come up with unique solutions, things that people haven't thought of before. And the other then would be to try to build a model, to refine and prototype that option and see if it works. And so this makes our K-5 students become really good problem solvers, trying to think a little bit in the box and outside the box all at the same time. STEM concepts at LVJUSD, we begin all our students early with opportunities to explore and engage with science. As early as TK, students receive instruction in science, and this is our TK program with Sprouts, where we have that kind of going on. It's always fun to go watch those guys work. Then as they progress, to help set students on a STEM path, here are examples of the various grade level design and modeling challenges used to help engage the students in STEM. Some of them like sound inventions, energy collisions. You can kind of picture labs of that going on, trying to crash things together, see about the energy going through, and the beginning of the robotics and automation challenge, which we'll see a little bit more of later on when they get older. We now have dedicated maker spaces at eight of our elementary school sites. Special thanks goes to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory for their generous gift that enabled 3 new sites to create spaces. Those are the ones that have a little asterisk: Croce, Mitchell, and Sunset. Also on there, Smith is in the process of working their space in right now, too. So we'll probably have a 9th one here very soon. So we're almost in all of them. These spaces include items such as Legos, digital cameras, Sphero and Osmo robots, fabric, 3D presenters, and many other engaging items. A successful makerspace provides kids with a variety of tools and materials and the freedom to create, often with no preconceived end in mind. It's kind of a self-directed learning. While the sites listed have dedicated makerspaces, all of our elementary schools have embraced the maker culture at the site level and maker corners in select classrooms as well. So there may be one dedicated classroom in some, but then other classrooms also have elements of these in their own classroom. As a student enters middle school years, the focus is on having students identify the problem from a series of pre-selected topics presented by the teacher. The student has the flexibility in creating a solution and/or product to the problem, to produce a problem, or a solution to the product, sorry. So you can see kind of there what's going on in the middle school ages. And so here at the middle grades, teachers focus on helping students learn to brainstorm, to collaborate with each other as part of the process of developing the best solution. Classes are presented with an industry focus, recording and documenting all the steps, justification of what was pursued and why certain avenues weren't pursued. This year, 23 students at Christensen Middle School participated in the Science Olympiad competitions. Students are given a challenge and must kind of present a solution at the event. And so that was a really great opportunity for our kids to kind of take what they're learning in the classrooms and kind of take it onto a competitive stage moment and stuff. As the students enter the final phase of their journey, the focus is on having students take the initiative to identify a more complex problem that is of a concern to them. So we went from kind of the gradual release to where suddenly they're in charge of coming up with their problem that's particular to them and kind of working out the solution. In many courses, the student will have opportunities to confer with industry experts as they design their solution and or they design their products. LVJUSD offers a rigorous and rich variety of technology-laden courses as well. This year we had 100% of our schools participate in the Hour of Code. And so the Hour of Code is an opportunity for students to see the accessibility of coding and see how fun it is when they get a chance to design and create. STEM Pathways. Cisco Networking Academy. This one offers students an industry certificate upon completion of this pathway. The Game Design Pathway, a new one and a very kind of actually lucrative new opportunity to go through for game design, even game playing, takes advantage of our telepresence equipment and allows students to participate in the class at a neighboring high school without having to leave our high school to be a part of that. Our community and industry partnerships have provided our students with summer camps and college tours around STEM-related fields. Our students participate in STEM-related activities and have a chance to interact with STEM professionals. In the case of the Student Scholars Program, students were able not only to participate in internships and research experiences, but several earned a scholarship as a result of their efforts at that internship. You can see our partnerships there with Las Positas College several times. It's a huge and great rewarding partnership for us. And then the Rutger Waxman Student Scholarship was part of the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And SunPower has been really instrumental in opening up some camps for kids at the summertime. And then connecting with industry professionals is a major focus at the high school level to provide both relevancy and authenticity for what they're doing. High school students and teachers attended manufacturing day activities. Actually, they did it while they were on their day off because it was the professional development day for our teachers and staff. And our students, some of them woke up early and were part of the manufacturing day activities with our Tri-Valley community companies. Our students toured facilities of many local companies where professionals shared their work and discussed their career paths. And when they came back and were part of the lunching event, they were actually able to kind of interact and even kind of semi-interview with some of these people if they were seniors looking to kind of what would be a possibility for them in a career path opportunity. And so you can see the list of 8 local companies that we had this year that they had a chance to be a part of touring, which was kind of exciting for them. Students build on their programming skills and develop complex programs and create mobile apps. If you have a phone and you want to check it out, several students from Mendenhall, their Project Lead the Way class, have created apps that are available on Google Play. So you could download those apps that they've created, and it's at the Google Play Store. After several years of receiving STEM instruction throughout the grade levels, our students are able to demonstrate their skills at local, state, and national level competitions. Both Livermore High School and Granada High School have robotics competition teams, as well as East Avenue. 2 of the sites compete at the VEX robotics competitions. LHS, Livermore High School, has formed a Gravitex team, and they compete in the first competition, which is for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. And so they've done very well. You can see the Gravitex picture is the one at the bottom. We're all doing the little X. And then we've got the robots belt on the top. Our STEM teachers continue to develop additional STEM opportunities, such as Girls Who Code, which is nearly in almost all of our sites.
Middle and high school.
Yeah, middle and high school sites. And our Cyber Patriots program. Both the high schools had teams compete in the Cyber Patriot competitions. Granada High School Cybersecurity Club, by the way, even had one team that was able to place in the top 3% of over 2,000 teams that were there for the competition. And 2 of the Granada High School students placed first in the Cisco Cyber Cup competition held in San Jose. A STEM capstone event will occur on February 27th, and hopefully you got your invites today when you sat down. It'll take place February 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Junction. This is an event open to the entire community. Volunteer judges will evaluate student science and engineering projects. For the first time this year, students were able to enter projects in a math and data analysis category for science. Special awards are also given out for technical writing to see and start developing students who can technically write, solar energy and water quality projects as well.
I think that event is actually the 28th.
It's a 2-day event. The 27th is when students present their projects to judges. And if anyone would like to be a judge or see students in action, you're welcome to join us. And the public event is Thursday, February 28th from 5 to 7. So both nights are available. Thursday, the 28th, is the more public event.
Thank you. And then our next steps, what do we do after 10 years? I think we should just keep going and building on our success. In the future, we're committed to expanding STEM-related pathways that match industry needs and to connecting course content to career opportunities for our students as well. And so if you had any questions of our STEM thing, that would be great. And either of us can field this.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Wenzel.
Thank you for your presentation. This is exciting. You know, just one question. I looked at the groups that came in, and I don't see like Workday and some of these bigger companies. How are they selected? How are these groups come in?
For manufacturing
For
day.
manufacturing day?
I'm sorry, Manufacturing Day. I looked at that, and that Workday is such a huge company that.
Right. The Manufacturing Day is a national event sponsored by the Society for Manufacturing Engineers, and planning for Manufacturing Day is community participation with the City of Livermore involved, Society of Manufacturing Engineers, ROP, which is a key sponsor, and then the regional school districts along with Las Positas College. And true manufacturers are invited, are tapped for the tours, because the purpose is to get more students interested in working in the manufacturing industry. So Workday is a big corporation. I believe they're more computer science, customer management software, so that would not be considered manufacturing.
And
I agree.
They do have manufacturing. I mean, it's just how do we reach out to these bigger companies that are in the Tri-Valley area to, come and get involved? So
I'll bring that up for next time,
Okay.
and definitely can tap them also for other events to talk to students about career opportunities. So thank you for bringing that up.
We have the committee does meet often at Livermore City Hall, and we sit around roundtable, and we'll bring that forward there to the panel who's already probably working on the next October day coming up for Manufacturing Day.
And we also do have a connection with Workday. I know Workday adopted Maryland School probably a year or so ago, and what they did was they came in with care packages for classrooms and for teachers. They brought composition books, playground balls, pencils, Post-it notes. So we do have some connection with them, but I think one of the focus was for Manufacturing Days. These are jobs that cannot be outsourced. These are jobs that actually take place, and the students get to witness and see the actual manufacturing going on. So that could be that even some of the larger companies aren't doing it right here locally, where the kids can actually tour.
That's exactly right. The idea of getting students onto a facility to see what people do and see products being made is a big focus for the event.
Thank you, Mr. Wenzel. We'll move to Mrs. Pruso.
Thank you. I am impressed with all of the things. What I wanted to ask you about were the maker spaces. I am curious how they work. Do the teachers go in with the class? Is it open free time? Like, how do the maker spaces work in the elementary schools?
I believe both. It depends on the site, and Dr. Griffin.
Right. I mean, it does depend on the site. For example, Smith is trying a new one where they'll have the materials in one spot, but the teachers can check them out with the media specialists and then bring them to the classroom and use it in there, and then check them back in when they're done. Most of them have fixed classrooms on a rotation schedule where they're going into the space and allowing them to kind of have some time and some opportunity to try the different things that are in there. So it's really up to the teacher on how they see it being used for the kids, and developmentally, where are the kids as they're going through that program too. So.
Okay. I'm glad that we have them. I feel like this is where the world is moving. If you look at big companies, this is how they're setting up their, to come in and people go in a shared space and create. And then related to that is, do we have maker spaces or creative labs available at the high school? And if so, what do those look like?
As far as I know, they're not at the high schools, but they would have the lab settings for the Project Lead the Way classes going on, or some of the science courses that might have a way of kind of also allowing kind of some of that, but more under a controlled environment if you're in a chem lab or something like that. But
Yeah, and the engineering and machining programs, welding programs at both high schools are definitely hands-on problem-solving sections. It is just more specific to the courses.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pruso. And we'll move to Mrs. White.
It's just mushroomed in the last couple of years, what we're doing for STEM education. I think it's really important that we continue to focus on STEM education. Yes, that's where there will be career opportunities in the future. But I think it's important that we focus on the problem-solving, doing aspect for each and every student and not let career opportunities take over the forum. You've got to learn to think and do and act before you can get a job doing anything. And, the career opportunities can be mentioned and highlighted at certain opportune times, but certainly not make that the focus of our STEM activities, which I have observed and heard some districts talk about, that this is a focus of their career education. And I want it to continue to be science, technology, education, mathematics, and what's the S? Arts. And I must say that I was with some folks from Sandia this afternoon, and Dr. Azar was pleased to know that he's going to sign up and be a judge. And he says, gotta go one more time. He says, it's my community service for Sandia.
Thank you.
And so
Thank you for introducing him to Science Odyssey.
He's looking forward to that.
Thank you.
He'll be a judge. So if you need to be a judge or know of somebody who would like to judge, sign up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Yeah. Okay. I want to thank you very much, and also just a public thank you to the partnerships. I know that's a lot of work, and to those folks, because it takes, they're doing their job, and this is something extra. And I think that it's truly, because I've talked with some of the folks, and it's not just Manufacturing Day. I mean, partners like TopCon and LAM are key contributors to other scholarships for children and stuff within the community. So I think a lot of this is beyond any career opportunity. It goes into just being good community partners. And I truly appreciate what those folks are doing for us, because it's their expertise. Sandia and Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, we're extremely fortunate in this community to have this degree of partnering. And it goes not just to them, but it goes to the staff here that reaches out in the course of their day to create those partnerships and then to cultivate them. And our students are benefiting from it. You can see it through the competitions and other things. So it's great work, really great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'd introduce 9-2, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. I will invite Kim McNeely forward. She is coming forward to give you an update. She's our bond administrator, and she'll be presenting state facilities funding status report. And this is for information only.
Thank you. Sorry. Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers and Cabinet, I'm very pleased to be here this evening to provide an update for you on the status of state bond funds and the status of our applications for those funds. Starting with just a little bit of background, and I know this is probably a refresher, but for the community in particular, you'll recall that in 2016, the state passed a voter-approved Prop 51 bond that allocated $9 million in school facility bond funds for the state. $6.5 million of those bond funds were allocated for K-12 education, which has been wonderful for us. That included new construction, allocations, modernization, and career technical and education facilities funding. As predicted, I think when we last spoke late summer, the new construction funding was exhausted in the fall of 2018, and so we'll be focusing on modernization funding tonight, which remains. There are $373 million apportioned already out of this fund. You can see that in the pie chart in front of you. $2 billion in funds are awaiting, or projects are awaiting funding, and there are remaining $579 million available for projects that are applying currently. Probably you heard as part of the budget presentations, Governor Newsom is proposing in 2019-20 budget to sell another $1.5 billion in bonds, and that will likely improve the funding timing for us with regard to our applications. So I think that's really good news for us as a district. Because state bond funds continue to be allocated, the board directed us last summer to begin immediately applying for those funds. And we were in a parallel process conducting a request for qualifications to award a contract to a state funding consultant. The board awarded that contract in November, you'll probably recall, but we were well on our way already in the fall with those applications and that process. So I think it turned out to be a good strategy for us as an organization to move those applications quickly while we were going through that process. You'll again recall that California Department of Education and Division of State Architect approval are required for submission to the Office of Public School Construction. Our district was again, I think, thinking ahead in the process. Many of our applications already had DSA approval or were nearing approval through DSA, which really helped move our applications forward. Those are required approvals as we submit to the California Department of Education, and that helped us again in our timelines and our process. We received California Department of Education project approvals in late November and December, and that set the stage for us to apply for Office of Public School Construction funds in the last month. I wanted to just refresh your memory a little bit on the table below. This is our district's modernization eligibility for state bond funds. What's listed there is the state's share, not the total cost of the project. This represents about 60% of the cost of projects for us, but this indicates eligibility in excess of $32 million for our district, which we're really excited about and eager to apply for. We have completed a first round of applications, and we are officially, I am happy to say, submitted to the Office of Public School Construction. So for playground improvements, data infrastructure, and video projection and voice enhancement, for all of the listed elementary campuses, we are in fact now applied, and for those same projects at Junction Avenue K8. At the high schools, we are submitted for track and field renovation project, the data infrastructure, video projection and voice enhancement, and the athletic and aquatics renovation project. In total, this represents 9 applications for our district. The applications are currently under OPSC review. The process usually looks like some follow-up questions or clarifications that OPSC will want from the district. Once that happens, the district will receive a letter indicating that we have been accepted and we will be in line. So it's all moving as one would hope it would move. So the 9 applications represent for us about $27 million in additional funding to augment our bond funds. We will continue to look for eligible projects. We do have a bit of remaining modernization eligibility, and as we continue to qualify or move projects forward, we'll apply for those funds. We're also, as a staff, assessing our new construction eligibility. That's something we really haven't talked about a lot, and as we discussed earlier, there aren't currently available new construction funds, but the buzz around the state is that there is a likely 2020 bond that may be coming to the ballot for us, and I think it would be really prudent for us to be in line for those funds to the extent that we have eligibility. At this point, we are looking at about $35 million in new construction eligibility. So as projects qualify, I think the last time we talked, we really didn't talk about that possibility, but I think it's wonderful news for us, and we will continue to look at projects that qualify specifically for that funding. So next steps for us, we're going to continue to assess projects for eligibility and apply. We will continue to submit to the state, and we will continue to update you. In summary, I wanted to say I think we've put ourselves in a perfect position. We have district's priority projects funded. We're moving forward with those projects, and we are in line for reimbursement from the state, which will allow us with those funds to make our local funds go a little further and fulfill the promise that we made to our voters that we would actively seek those funds to help improve what we can do with local dollars. So with that, mostly very good news, I conclude, but I'm happy to entertain comments or questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. White? Oh, nothing? Okay. So we have no questions or comments.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Mr. Rogan.
I do want to thank you. It's great to see that we're always on the leading edge of these grants and staying ahead of the bond thing. It's kind of like your own project lead the way. So I do appreciate all the work you guys do. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into our action items. And with that, I'll have our superintendent If you could introduce 10-1, please.
Thank you, President Bueno. So we'll re-invite Dr. Kevin Greer forward. He's our Director of Curriculum, and joining him will be Helen Gladden, our Assistant Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. They'll be presenting to you the 612 English Language Arts, English Language Development Instructional Materials recommendation for formal consideration by the board for adoption.
All right, so good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. We're here today. I'm joined with Helen Gladden, Assistant Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, and we are here tonight to present the outcome of our recent 612 English Language Arts, English Language Development Instructional Materials Adoption process.
Good evening. Before we really get started, I'd like to give a heartfelt thanks to the teachers who volunteered to serve on the 6 through 12 Pilot Adoption Committee. Serving on an adoption committee is a lot of additional work. You're learning a new curriculum pretty quickly, and you have to go through more than one because you're trying different curriculums. So to show you how dedicated some of these teachers are, there are 3 still in the audience that have sat through the whole meeting to be here at this moment. So I would like to have stand up Gina Ruggieri from Junction Avenue. I saw her in the audience. And I saw Robin Taggart of Granada. And I saw Madeline Munoz from Granada. No, I'm sorry. Oh, Veronica Cortez. Sorry. I am so bad with names. Also from Junction, correct? I got that right. Okay, so they did an awful lot of work, so I just, and the very fact that they're still here is incredible. So after careful consideration, the teachers are recommending adoption of StudySync for both middle and high school, so grades 6 through 12. So I'd like to show you all the teachers that were involved. Here's the 6 through 8 pilot team. And they all piloted 5 weeks, one of the adoption choices, and another 5 weeks the other. And then the next slide is the 9 through 12 team that did the same thing. So a lot of piloting going on, a lot of students involved. And the reason they went with StudySync is for many reasons, but these are some of the big ones. It's very user-friendly, engaging, organized, and flexible. The technology they found very easy to navigate with a good interface. There are print materials. Students don't always have to be online. They can be working offline. It's very aligned to the California standards. Well-rounded, spirals through the grades. And all English teachers, this is exactly what they're looking for, an emphasis on reading, annotating, writing, research, and language skills. And it's organized by theme, which is always nice. There's 4 units per grade, so 4 themes per grade, with an essential question guiding each unit to keep the students focused on that theme. And they're universal themes that are being looked at. There's a pacing guide for each unit, which is wonderful. There's a diversity of reading materials, including excerpts and novels. There's a good integration of social studies and science in with the English. There are mini lessons and blasts that bring relevance of the themes to the students, and the students just love the blasts. Isn't that right, teachers? Love them. And there's an incorporation of anonymous peer reviews where the students get to review each other's work anonymously so they can be very honest, and that students, again, loved that, really loved that part, because they could get honest feedback on their work, where friends sometimes won't be honest with you that, you know, your topic sentence isn't very strong, or so that was really good. The other thing that we really like about it is we want to meet the needs of all our students, and all means all. So StudySync has some great universal access supports, including grade and Lexile leveled filters for digital text, meaning that a digital text can be pushed out to students at their current reading level and they can build from there. And there's an access path for English language development so that anything that is being read can be supported at different levels of English development. There's auto narration, so if students struggle with reading, They can be reading and listening at the same time, and you can speed up or slow down that auto narration, which is wonderful. There's a text highlight option, so while the students are reading, the most important parts of the text can be highlighted. And there's closed captioning, which is also very important. So our superintendent's recommendation is to adopt StudySync as the 6 through 12 English Language Arts, English Language Development instructional materials.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Mrs. Prusso. I'm sorry. Mr. Rogi.
I have two questions. I'll ask them one at a time. The first question is, what independent reviews, if any, were considered to ensure the alignment with the standards?
So the process begins with the state level getting and receiving the materials, and then there's a really intense process that is, it's complicated to look at or whatever, but basically it boils down to the fact that there's a social content review, there's a public review and comment, so public is open to look at all of the publisher's materials that are being suggested for adoption or approval by the State Board of Education. And then there's an educational content review where we have, they'll end up being instructional materials reviewers, and there'll also be content reviewing experts who go through the books themselves independently, checking and making comments and kind of highlighting some things and checking them against the standards and really making sure that they're aligned. They then put a report together that goes to the Instructional Quality Commission, who also is looking at the materials and also puts together a report, and they'll take some and not have them moved forward in the process because maybe they haven't been aligned, but then they're moved forward. But the most important process to us is the work that they end up doing in the pilot, as far as them being independent people reviewing the materials in a live lab setting, essentially. Being able to see the kids interacting with the materials, having them interact with the materials, having colleagues come in and watch them teach or have them question them about, what do you think about this? What are you really thinking about that? And so there's a lot of good dialogue that goes on beyond the scene after the state has said these are the ones that are being suggested, that our teachers are doing it. And our process is very set so that the teacher voice is the one that matters. We don't have a voice in that as far as what we're looking for. It's really what do our teachers see as the best fit for our students.
Okay, and then just the teachers, when did they start the pilot program, start piloting these curriculums?
So I believe, and the teachers can jump in if I'm wrong, that we ran the first pilot in October. Yeah, and the second one from the end of October, and it went into November.
And it was two different
Right.
curriculums?
So what we did, we looked at.
I read the process, but I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, so what we did was we looked at adoptions that had been approved by the CDE for consideration, and we took what was available for middle school, and the middle school teachers narrowed it down to two, one of which was StudySync. Then the high school teachers did the same, and it just so happened one of the ones they narrowed it down to was StudySync. So the middle school ran two pilots with StudySync and another publisher, and the high schools ran two pilots with StudySync and yet a different publisher, and both groups voted heavily, like 90-something% in both groups to go with StudySync. And the nice thing about that, because they did it without knowing each other was doing that, is now you have a consistency from grades 6 through 12, very articulated process. So I think that's nice versus having two different adoptions at the two levels.
Yeah, I like that too. And my second question, what is the short-term and long-term plan for the implementation of the curriculum?
So the usual process for them is that they are intended to be purchased on a 7 or 8 year adoption cycle. So we would purchase now and hope to have it running for 7 or 8 years. During that time, in the first 3 years, we already have an implementation plan that we would roll out to help with professional development, training of the teachers, and then ongoing involvement in how they're doing in the rollout, just like we would with anything else. And we also will continue to look to see if we can adjust or update. One of the nice things about the StudySync materials is that because components can be somewhat augmented online with new reading selections and things like that. They can't go in and change like the content of the text, that part of the teacher's materials, but they can kind of add to or augment the list of readings choices and things like that, is that we can continually search for things that most fit our students and our populations, which is really nice.
I think the blasts are a really good example of that. So the blasts support whatever the theme is that's being studied in that unit, but they're tied to what's going on today, maybe of interest to students. So it brings some relevance of the theme to life for the students. And there are many, many constantly being added for teachers to choose from. So you can really think, what's of interest to students right now? Let me bring this in, because it's a short video they watch, and then they discuss it on an online kind of forum together. So it just emphasizes the theme authentically for the student.
Yeah, I like that it's a living curriculum that can
It is, and some of the piloting teachers had noted that they'd go in one day and there were X amount of maybe excerpts listed. They'd go in another day and 5 more had been added. So it's a really living, breathing curriculum.
Yeah, which right now we need that. I think that's all my questions. I just want to say to the teachers who are here, I really appreciate all the work that you guys did. I know this curriculum has been a long time coming, and I'm assuming that in the next 8 years or so, we reassess where we're at with this curriculum and then decide from there if we need new curriculum or how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Prusso. And we'll move to our clerk, Mr. Rogie.
Hi, I've got some questions on the fiscal impact. I see that the cost is about $2 million and that the consumables will essentially be free for 8 years. Is that $2 million for an 8-year contract, or is that renewed every year? Can you give me some insight on?
It is, we're exploring doing an 8-year contract with them, and so that is the total for the 8 years of the adoption cycle.
And that's for all schools from 6 through 12?
That's every bit of materials for 6 through 12.
And that is coming out of our restricted lottery funds? How much of that is being used, how much of our lottery funds are being used in that area?
So the $2,600,000 is part of the sale of property funds that we had set aside, and then 1.4 million is actually unrestricted, and I believe consumables will be paid for out of the restricted lottery.
But for 8 years, there's no cost in the consumables?
Correct. Most of them are free in replenishing, I guess you should say.
It's all, you pay for it up front, but you get the consumables provided every year depending upon, the class sizes, of course, will change every year. So maybe 9th grade, you'll need more one year, 10th the next. So they replenish them that way, but that's all included in the upfront cost.
How long has this company been in business?
McGraw-Hill.
So it's a part of McGraw-Hill, which has been in business for a long time.
Okay. And I'm going to ask an obvious question, but what's the expected outcome?
Student engagement and increased learning and literate people.
How about on the teacher side?
For the teachers, I think it just gives teachers a lot of resources to emphasize themes, to have students read. It's less searching around to try and supplement your curriculum. It's engaging. It's new. The novels are more. There's more of a selection of with diversity in them. It had been quite a while since we'd had an English adoption, so some of the excerpts were just not reflective maybe of all of our student population as well, where this is broader as far as diversity goes.
It'll also help with differentiation, because that's part of the challenge for teachers is when you have students with such a range of needs and levels, how do you meet all of those? And so this will help the really high kids go higher, and it'll also help give intervention for students who are struggling, so really meets the kids where they are. And as Mrs. Gladden said, they won't have to scramble to find those supplementary things. It's built into the program.
And you might have said this, but is there a bilingual component to this?
So there's ELD support to this, and another beauty of StudySync is that you can convert what's being read into a multitude of languages. You just click on the language. So if you have students new to the country, immigrant students, as they're learning, you could be scaffolding them with some reading in their own language. It's what's being done today with curricular materials is, as you would expect, just so far ahead of when we last adopted, because you know how much the world has changed in a decade, right? So it's quite something.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank everybody that was in the pilot. Good job on that.
Stand up.
Okay, we're going to move to Mrs. White.
Yes, I want to assure you, Mrs. Presso, that the state process to select these books is very rigorous. A couple of cycles ago, excuse me, I was on one of the panels, and you listen to the subject matter experts. I was a board member, and there were other board members on other subsets, and you listen to the teachers and saying this would work, this wouldn't work, and they come together and come to the realization that these meet our standards with respect to universal access, addressing the standards, and support for the teacher. And those are some of the guidelines that were used. I just want to allow us how we've heard about technology earlier in the day, and some of us have been skeptical about how technology is used in the classroom. And I would like to suggest that this has really come to fruition in that there are so many more resources for the teachers to have certain artful uses of the English language were meant to be heard and not read. An example, Blood, Sweat, Toil, and Tears from Churchill, the Gettysburg Address from Lincoln. One of my first experiences as a board member was about 6 weeks into being a board, mid-January or so, and the superintendent was eager that the two new board members get on board with her support of technology. So we had a board retreat, and part of what she wanted us to know was how useful technology can be. Now, this was a while ago, and there was a 10-inch disc that was played for us, which tells you certain things. And there were 3 different actors reading Ulysses. I don't know if you've ever seen the tape. I'm sure it's out there someplace that could be accessed. And they all had, just the way they read it, made it different. I mean, in some, Ulysses was apologizing, and some, his wife was saying, "What do you expect? You've been gone all this time." So I think that the technology is coming to come into its own on this. And I've also appreciated, as I looked at some of the materials, that there seems to be a plan to read only excerpts from certain things, because the excerpt shows the artful use of the English language. And there's also student-written examples of what could be written, so that the student, sometimes my sons were said, "Write about this and I'll get my red pencil out and let you know what you did wrong." Well, you need to have clear, explicit instructions in reading and writing, and you get farther faster, I would think. And there are particularly, I thought, quite a substantial number of readings, writings, orations that would be susceptible to collaboration with the social science teachers. So that, like I suggested, the Gettysburg Address. Well, you read that when you might be doing some subsection of American history. So, we've come a long way when it comes to what's appropriate for technology in the classroom for the teachers and for the students. And thank you for working so hard, to everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. White. I don't believe we have any other discussion. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve Section 10.1, adoption of 6 through 12 English language arts, English language development, and instructional materials.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wenzel to adopt the superintendent's recommendation. That motion's been seconded by Mrs. White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes. Mrs. Puso?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good.
Dr. Bowers, you can introduce 10-2, please.
Certainly. So for our next item, well, I'll ask Ms. Melissa Thede. She's our director, but she's up here at our table with us tonight. She will be presenting for board consideration and approval a new job description, network technician.
Thank you, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers, and Cabinet. I don't know where my slides are for your purview, but I am here this evening to talk to you about a proposed new job description, which is that of network technician. So this is a position that has been brought forth as a result of the efficiency study that was done for our technology department. Upon the retirement of one of our classified administrators, Glenn Cusco, the conversation is to not fill that management level position, but instead bring forth a new job description, which would be a CSEA level position, which is the network technician, and this would replace the position of the classified administrator if it is approved. And the recommendation of our superintendent is to approve the proposed new job description for network technician.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any questions or comments, so I would entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the approval for the new job description of network technician.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogie. It's been seconded by Mr. Wenzel to support superintendent's recommendation. Any discussion on the motion? Being none, I'd ask you to call the roll, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Puso?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have one more item that I'll be discussing with you this evening, and that is specifying the criteria to be used to determine the order of layoff for certificated employees in the unlikely event that layoffs would be necessary. It's mandated that we discuss and agree to tiebreaker criteria in the event that this were to occur. The timeline for this is this evening we talk about what the tiebreaker criteria is. In the event that any layoffs were necessary, those would be brought forth at the March 5th board meeting, and any notification, precautionary or otherwise, would be made to employees prior to March 15th, with a final notification regarding layoff by May 15th, again, in the unlikely event that this is necessary. So, assuming that all employees up for possible layoff had identical seniority, the first category that we would consider is whether or not those employees with identical seniority had their English language certification, their EL certification. If all things being equal and we needed another level of tiebreaker, we would look at different types of credentials based on the instructional needs we have within the district. Beyond that, we would look at any experience that those employees with identical seniority may have, either inside or outside of the district. Up after that, we would look at their professional preparation and their ongoing education. And finally, if all things are still equal, we would resort to a lottery system to determine next steps. The recommendation of our superintendent is to adopt resolution number 030-1819.
I don't believe we have any comments or questions, so I'm going to go ahead and call for the
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the specifying criteria to be used to determine the order of termination of certificated employees, the tiebreaker.
I'll second.
To clarify that the motion is to adopt the resolution.
Yes.
That is correct.
Sorry.
030-1819.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Thank you.
clarification. And so we have a motion by Mrs. Prusso. It's been clarified, and that motion's been seconded by Mr. Rogie. Is there any questions on the motion? Mr. Rogie, if you call the roll, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel? Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
normally
for-
our resolutions are under the consent item resolution. This is required by Ed Code that we do present it separately. That's kind of why it was pulled differently. Normally resolutions are part of the
That's
consent.
correct.
So for our next several items, we have Mr. Scott Vernoy, our Director of Student Services, and these are for first readings of different series of policies. But we'll take them one at a time.
Good evening, President Bueno, Superintendent Bowers, members of the board and cabinet. Tonight, I bring to you 5 policies. We'll start off with Board Policy 0450, and these are all first readings. This is for the Comprehensive Safe School Plan. The first posting was January 18th, and tonight is our first reading. So this is a replacement of an existing board policy, the Comprehensive Safety Plan. The new law requires districts to consult and share their approved comprehensive safety plans with local law enforcement, the fire department, and other first responder entities. I'm still trying to figure the first responder entities out, the other ones, but we have made appointments with the police and fire department to assure that this was in place for our upcoming comprehensive safe school plans. The superintendent's recommendation is to approve the first reading from the Board Policy Series 1000. I'd be glad to take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a comment or question from Mr. Wenzel.
Thank you. Looking at the document, there were like 16 points of error. Are those going to be all reviewed by police and fire, or?
So I'm sharing the documents with both of them, so I would tell you, yes, they will be reviewing
All of
them. Yes.
Great, thank you.
And if we have no more questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move, Mr. President, I'll move to approve the first reading of policy 10.4, 10.4 on the discussion action items.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogie to support superintendent's recommendation to approve the first reading from Board Policy Series 0000. And that motion's been seconded by Mr. Wenzel. Any questions on the motion? Mr. Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, Mrs. White?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Our next board policy is Board Policy 3260, fees and charges. This is a first reading. Same timeline as the previous policy. January 18th was the first posting, and tonight a first reading. So this is a revision of the Board Policy and Administrative Regulations 3260, which is fees and charges. One of the big adjustments is pursuant to new law, districts cannot bill or take any negative action against students or former students for any debt owed to a school or district, provided the debt is not owed as a result of vandalism or a need to replace books, supplies, or property that was willfully damaged or not returned by the student. We received no other comments. The superintendent's recommendation is to approve the first reading for the Board Policy 3000.
Thank you very much. Do you perceive there'd be any problem foregoing a second reading? Do you need more time on this?
Actually, we did receive a suggestion, which I believe was changing the word prizes to incentives. Was that something that I believe that was presented in cabinet?
But, so we can change that to incentives, prizes to incentives. It's in there about 4 times. but how it is written in there, it talks about specifically to fundraising efforts is where the prizes is in that one paragraph. So either way.
Okay. It sounds like you
So
need to
we
clarify.
can-
I was just looking to expedite it and see if we could forego the second reading.
I was going to propose the same thing to expedite it. My research shows that we're in parallel with a lot of other districts. It's the same terminology, and it is an update for the law. So other than if there was any minor changes that can be incorporated, but I would.
We could incorporate the incentives for prizes, and I would suggest that we approve first and final if you are.
I would move to waive first reading and go right on to second and approve.
Okay. So we have, you're making a motion?
Motion, that was a motion.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion to support superintendent's recommendation and in addition to forego the first, and we're going right to the second and final.
Okay.
That motion's been seconded by Mrs. Prusso. No, she did.
I know
second,
she
so-
did.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I call for the vote, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Our next board policy is 5127, graduation ceremonies and activities. This is also on the same timeline, a January 18th posting and a February 5th first reading. This is a revision of an existing board policy. This is also a new law, AB 1248. Gives students the right to wear religious or cultural adornments attached to or worn with the cap and gown at graduation ceremonies. Another change that is being made is also, and really it's updating to align with current practice. Also, any graduating student who has completed basic training and is an active member of any branch of the United States or Armed Forces may, at his or her option, wear his or her military dress uniform at the ceremony. And this is under Ed Code 35183.3.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Okay. I call for the motion. I'd entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
Certainly. I'd like to approve superintendent's recommendation on 10.6 board policy from series 5000.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wenzel supporting the superintendent's recommendation. That motion's been seconded by Mr. Rogie. Any questions on the motion? Mr. Rogie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Myself, aye. President Bueno?
Aye. That also carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next board policy is 6174, and that's education for English learners. This is a first reading. A little different. First posting was January 24th, and I bring to you for a first reading today, February 5th. So this was a replacement of a 2008 board policy and administrative regulations. The BP and AR for English learners is updated to reflect new state regulations governing the implementation of Proposition 58 requirements pertaining to language acquisition programs and to delete references to the former state assessment of English proficiency,
All righty.
which is a mouthful for me.
We're going to keep you in the hot seat a couple more,
The
right?
superintendent's recommendation is to approve the first reading.
All right. Any discussion, any comments? Being none, I-
If we're just implementing Proposition 58, Shall we forego the second reading?
Mr. Roy, do you see any problem in foregoing it? Do you need more
I
time?
do not see any problem from foregoing.
Okay. So what is your motion, Mrs.
I
White?
so move that we approve policy 6174
And forego the second
and
reading?
forego the second reading.
We have a motion by Mrs. White. Do we have a
Consider
second?
this the first and final reading, whatever.
Okay.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Mrs. White to support the superintendent's recommendation and in addition, forego the second and go to final. That motion's been seconded by Mrs. Prusso. Any questions on the motion? Mr. Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0.
I thank you for your time. I have one more policy for you. Board Policy 6175, Migrant Education Program. These changes will sound familiar to you. Board Policy Administrative Regulations from Series 6000, back to the January 18th posting and the February 5th first reading. We had added this language to the current graduation ceremonies. We are also, after reviewing that, we have discovered that we didn't have a policy 6175 for migrant education program. So this is an addition of a new board policy and administrative regulations that requires migratory students and newly arrived immigrant students participating in English language proficiency program be included in the exemption, which currently applies to foster youth, homeless students, children of military families, and former juvenile court school students who transfer between high schools in their junior and senior years. If you couldn't recall, we had approved the graduation ceremonies addition last meeting, which is very similar to this wording. There's also other things in that policy that has to do with migrant education program.
Okay. Do you have any discussion?
No discussion, but I think that since this is a new policy, we should not forego the second and final reading.
Correct.
It's complicated and multi-paged, and we should all know what's in it more carefully. So I move that we approve the first and final reading for
Well,
board.
before we have a motion, could we just make sure, I'm not asking for the motion yet. If we could finish comment and discussion,
I thought
please.
we could discuss the motion, but if you choose that way. Okay.
I just want to keep it clean. So there's no motion. I was still entertaining comment and discussion. So I have one a question, just for clarifying, and I'm not sure if it's semantics or not, but in the previous policy that we just approved, is it semantics or is it the intent that the term language acquisition seemed to be replacing English proficiency? And if that was the case, in this one, there's a reference to language proficiency. So is that a difference, or is it something that also needs to be changed, or is it?
No, they are two different categories. So one, the language acquisition, and then the English language learners are two different categories of students.
So the terminology proficiency is not looking to be eliminated, it's simply a different
Correct.
area. Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Mrs. White, then I would entertain your motion.
I move that we approve the first reading for board policy 6175, the policy and the administrative regulation.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mrs. White to support the superintendent's recommendation to approve the first reading of board policy 6174. That motion's been seconded by Mr. Wenzel. Is there any discussion on that motion? Mr. Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, myself, aye. Mrs. Prusso?
Aye.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we approve consent items 11.2 through 11.10.
Thank you, Mr. Rogie. We have
Second.
Discussion? Please call it.
Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mrs. Pruso?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. The motion carries 5-0. Okay, on the consent resos, do we have any? There's just the two, right? Anyone? We have no discussion on it, so I'd entertain a motion on that. 12-2, 12-3. What's that?
Is there any lead-in by the staff on this one, or is just, we want to go to a vote? Okay.
No, it's just a
Okay, I just
consent
wanted
item. So I would entertain a motion, if we'd like to do it together.
I move that we approve consent items, the motions 11.1 through 11.10, and the consent resolutions 12.1 through.
We're looking at
12.2.
12.1.
12.2 and
Okay.
12.3. I'm sorry.
Okay, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have clarifying the motion. We have a motion by Mrs. White to approve consent item resolutions 12.2 and 12.3. That motion's been seconded by Mr. Rogie. Any questions on the motion? Mr. Clerk, if you call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Wenzel?
Aye.
Mrs. Pruso?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mrs. White?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. I don't believe we moved anything separately, so we'll start with Mrs. White and we'll go to board member reports.
Okay, since the last meeting, there have been quite a few things. I opted to go to kindergarten information night at Croce, and I came to realize my husband was gathering the information for the real ID when he renewed his driver's license, and the materials that the parents had to gather for sending their child to school, there was quite an overlap between the two sets of informations. A couple of us from the School Boards Association went to visit with Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's staff last Friday, and it was a good meeting. Her district director is someone who was a district director for Joan Buchanan, and so she's up to speed on education issues, and I think we'll have a good representative in Mrs. Bauer-Cahan. The Martin Luther King breakfast has been recently, and that was an inspiring speaker. But yesterday was the most inspiring. I went to Jackson Avenue School, where Mateo Musso, an autistic 15-year-old, I want to say spoke to the 4th and 5th graders, but he really spelled for the 4th and 5th graders. There was a alphabet card that his mother held, and he spelled out the words, and she read the words. And she talked about his not being able to communicate for so many years of his life, and when they discovered the letterboard, it came together for him, so he now can express himself. And then I went back and read to a kindergarten class, transitional kindergarten class, about a student who might be different. And the point of the story was that we all have differences, and at least a third of the TK students in that class were bilingual. So they have that difference right there. But the story related that we all just need to appreciate each other's for our strength and not our differences. And the students were very attentive, and I appreciated their listening to my story. And another thing, one day recently, I was out on a Wednesday about shortly after 1:30 and driving down East Avenue. And I was just delighted to see the 700 students who were leaving East Avenue do it in an orderly fashion. The people who were waiting for the bus were here. The horde that was going across East Avenue for the other bus were there. The cars were waiting for them. I mean, it was just orderly. There was about 12 to 13 minutes of controlled chaos, But, the community supports the schools. The drivers weren't trying to do end runs around the masses of kids here and there. And I just felt good about Livermore at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. White. We'll go to Mrs. Prusso.
Thank you. The last few weeks have been busy for me as well. I had the opportunity to attend an anti-vaping presentation at Granada High School with Dr. Bowers and Mayor Marchand, and was really impressed with the anti-vaping peer educators and their advisor, Mrs. Doreen Abel. And they were able to inform us of the dangers of vaping and the current trends that are alarming for our students in Livermore, both at Granada and Livermore High School. And I appreciated the passion of the students who educated us really on what's happening. And I believe that they are going to be presenting to us at our next board meeting, so I look forward to that as well. I was also able to attend the California Student Mental Wellness Conference in Sacramento, and among other topics, including anti-vaping, suicide prevention, and diminishing mental health stigmas. I was really impressed with the peer counseling programs that many of the districts and schools have initiated, in which the students are able to educate, counsel their peers, and take some of the enormous burden of the day-to-day mental health needs of our students. And I hope that we can encourage similar programs in our district. And then, just like Mrs. White, I was able to go to Jackson Avenue today, and it was also a highlight for me of just the last few weeks, and be a part of their Ability Awareness Week. And I think Mrs. White did a wonderful job of talking about Mateo Musso, and I also got to see his presentation and was very impressed with that. So I will focus on, I got to attend the Ability Awareness Lab, where the students had to unscramble words that sort of represented what it might feel like to be dyslexic. They had to try to complete a puzzle while wearing headphones that had a lot of distractions. And I thought the most innovative thing they had is they had to peel and cut onions so the students could experience what it's like to cry without really wanting to have that emotion happen. And I thought that Deborah and Leah did such a great job showing the students what it's like to be different and to have different challenges and different abilities, and kind of show that we all have different abilities and we all think of things differently. And I think that I look forward to more ability awareness in all of our schools, and I think that's their goal, is to end up going to all of the elementary schools, and I can see that this was a great success. And I applaud Jackson Avenue and Sherry Johnston for supporting them in this venture. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Prusso. Mr. Rogi.
I would like to take acceptance of Mrs. White's description of the East Avenue horde. Dolphins don't hoard, we school. I just want to make that clear. I have not really been busy with board stuff. Track at Livermore High has started, so I'm kind of immersed into getting the Cowboys herded together. That's kind of been where I've been, so that's about all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogi. Mr. Wenzel.
Yes, I'd like to say Happy Chinese New Year, also Lunar New Year. We're ending up our basketball season. It was a long season, girls and boys sports. I want to say thank you to all the parents and volunteers. It doesn't work without them to help fund the program. We had a pasta feed, first time in the 6 years that I was coaching over there. They made over $2,000, so it helps pay for the sports at the school. And this Friday is the big game, and we play, our JV girls play on Thursday against Livermore, and both schools have been excellent this year in the program, so it was pretty exciting. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wenzel. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate our thanks to all those participants in the math counts, and we got the spelling bee coming up, and it just kind of goes to the academic success that the district is embracing and supporting on every single day. I also want to thank the community for the great work we're doing. You look at the bond department right now, and we're in full swing. Granada has heavy construction going on, and it's actually visible. There's stakes in the ground. There's heavy equipment on the dirt. Things are being torn up and things are being put in. Livermore High has been slated, East Avenue, Mitchell, these things are coming. And this community does an outstanding job. We're fortunate to live here. we're even more fortunate to have the people who live here support education in the way they do. So we're going to be benefiting from that, and assure you the district has their foot on the gas pedal going towards excellence. So great job by everyone. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. President. So as was mentioned by Trustee Prusso, I did meet with the mayor and with our student peer educators, and they will be coming for a presentation at our next board meeting. And they'll be also asking our board, along with our staff's recommendation, to possibly pass a resolution in support of anti-vaping efforts in the community and beyond, because it really is a societal issue that goes beyond Livermore, even though definitely we're concerned about what's happening here. And we just want to thank again Christine Wente for her leadership role and the $35,000 check that comes into our school district, and that is for STEM, which is a lot of the things that we saw today. So that will be supporting a lot of those efforts. I also want to give a little shout out to our assistant superintendent, Mike Biondi. He planned, along with other staff members, but primarily he was the leader of our Livermore School District Leadership Team workshop that we held on Friday, January 25th. And we focused on team building, our LCAP goals, progress to date with multi-tier systems of support. We listened to results of surveys that we've done at different levels that are part of engagement and input into development of our plans and goals. And we also spent some time learning about the millennial generation, those who are in our classroom, and also those who are now in our workforce, because different aspects, different qualities, different strengths, and different styles of working and learning. So it was really enlightening. So thank you, Mr. Biondi, for that. On Saturday, January 26th, my husband, Rob, and Boomer and I participated in the race to the flagpole, and there were over 600, I think, Trustee Prusso, you were also there, you as a volunteer?
I was not running, I was putting out water.
Okay, well, that was a contribution. Well, and we needed the water. I don't think Boomer needed the most water, but it was a beautiful day, and it was rescheduled, recall, because of the smoke and haze from earlier, but they've never had it this time of year, but it paid off. There were probably 300 more participants this year. So I think they have a new time that they're going to probably have it. My husband, Rob, and I, along with Kathy and her husband, attended the Smith School Gala, and it was a very fun fundraiser. Good time was had by all. I met today again with the Vineyard Leadership students, and they have many ideas, and we are working on action plans to implement them. One very exciting thing is they're selecting a mascot. And so they're in that process. I sent to you as community members also the survey. So they have a lot of ideas, and they're also taking write-ins. And so it's a huge range of what will work for that. And so that should be very exciting. I also attended with my husband the Golden Age of Hollywood event in support of the Bothwell Center of the Arts, and they also do a lot for our community. And and Matt Finders, who is part of our Element 116, he and his band performed there. And Karen Marguth, who's our IB coordinator, she was an incredible singer with the group. So it was amazing. Some other exciting news is that the national anthem we've submitted, and we have 4 performing student groups or individuals who've been chosen to perform at a large venue, which would be the Oakland A's season games. And so we'll hear more about those specific dates and how we can fill the seats so that they have a great experience. And then my last congratulation is to the local Livermore Management Association nominees for AXA Awards. So our local nominees were Brian Sharman, who you saw earlier, secondary co-administrator, Dana Taylor, middle grade principal, and Chris Van Schack, central office administrator. And 2 of our nominees were chosen to receive AXA Region 6 awards. This is all of Alameda County and Contra Costa counties together. They've been chosen Jen Arias, Classified Confidentials, and Tara Aderman, Elementary Principal of the Year. Wow. So they'll be going on to state competition as well to represent the entire region. So just a couple other little things. The district-wide spelling bee will be here, is it tomorrow? I think so. And then Science on Saturday began last Saturday with a lab at the Bankhead, and it'll be continuing for the next few weeks. And I'm looking forward, as both Trustee White and Prusso did, to read later in the week in a 3rd grade classroom for Abilities Awareness Week. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. With no further business, we're going to adjourn at 21:09.